Just like it happens in life, there's one condition that rules over the basketball world. Nothing lasts forever. Whether we're talking about winning streaks, playoff droughts, or championship runs, sooner or later, all of those things come to an end. And that is in itself a natural part of sports. Thanks to it, things get to be in constant movement, given that, in theory, no team should be winning or losing all the time. And even while there have been situations that have put that principle in question, they've all reached its conclusion, just like it happened with the Spurs' playoffs appearance streak this season. However, there's a franchise that stands out for having avoided that reality for well over a decade. And while simple logic indicates the Sacramento Kings can't keep on losing for much longer, they might be able to keep surprising us for a few more years. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we're talking about the Kings' current situation, how things are looking for them in the future, and whether their loss could eventually end up making history. When your team is considered to be good with only one thing, and that is handling social media, things are clearly not going well. Still, despite what their record in the last years would indicate, the Kings were once a respectable team. The franchise, known at the time as the Rochester Royals, was one of the first to join the NBA and win a championship, doing it in 1951 against the New York Knicks. Over the decades that came after their championship run, the team enjoyed modest success. Despite being unable to return to the championship round, they came a few games away from another finals appearance multiple times. Still, despite their play on the court, the business aspect didn't always work for the team, as they had to relocate 3 times. They went from Rochester to Cincinnati and then to Kansas City before finding a home in Sacramento in 1985. At first, things weren't going too good for the team, as they made only 2 playoff appearances during their first 13 seasons in Sacramento. However, for a few seasons, they were able to put together a team that had arguably the best chance for them to win a second title. Under the leadership of coach Rick Adelman and with the services of Chris Webber, the Kings enjoyed their first and to date only era of success in Sacramento by winning their first playoff series in 20 years. They followed that up by winning a franchise record 61 games in the next year and making it to the conference finals, where they met a Los Angeles Lakers team that came with the star duo of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. At the time, both teams had a rivalry, as the Lakers had eliminated the Kings in the 2 previous seasons, and Sacramento was looking to take some revenge. The matchup produced one of the best conference final series in recent years. However, despite the excellent basketball that was played throughout most of the games, the series is remembered for its infamous Game 6. Entering the game, the Kings were leading the series 3-2 and had a chance to eliminate the Lakers to advance to the finals and potentially win a championship, as they were a superior team than the Eastern Conference finalists, the New Jersey Nets. However, with the score tied going into the fourth quarter, the referees called multiple controversial calls in the Lakers' favor. In fact, during that period alone, Los Angeles was awarded 27 free throws, which ultimately helped them win by 4 points and then win the series in Game 7. Officiating for the game was highly criticized, and then a few years later, it turned into a scandal that affected the league's reputation when it was found that one of the referees that participated in the game had been involved in betting for games he officiated and had been part of playoff games that were improperly refereed. So, for once, it can be affirmed that a playoff series was affected by the officials in the favor of a team. If that hadn't been the case, the Kings might have stopped the Lakers from three-peating and could have won a championship in 2002. Sadly, as things turned out, it became the last time the team reached the conference finals, despite finishing the following 2 seasons with 55 wins or more. They lost in back-to-back years in Game 7 of the second round, first against the Dallas Mavericks and then against the Minnesota Timberwolves. After the 2004 playoffs, Sacramento could only put together 2 more seasons of competitive basketball, both resulting in a first-round elimination, before deciding to go into a rebuild that has lasted way more than expected. From 2006 to 17, the Kings went through multiple retools to return to form, but failed each time before proceeding to shake up the roster again. During that period, some of their main players included Ron Artest, Kevin Martin, Tyreke Evans, DeMarcus Cousins, Isaiah Thomas, and Rudy Gay. All of them were special talents who never found success in Sacramento, thanks in large part to the pieces to the moves made by the front office. But the multiple changes didn't only take place in the roster, as they were frequent on the sidelines as well. Since Adelman left the franchise, Sacramento has had 10 different coaches, with none of them lasting more than 3 seasons at that position. And when it comes to the front office, things have not been steady either. After new ownership acquired the team in 2013, they replaced longtime president of basketball operations, Jeff Petrie, with Pete D'Alessandro. Under D'Alessandro, things didn't get much better, as the team couldn't bring Isaiah Thomas back and fired coach Mike Malone. However, his tenure was short-lived, as he decided to leave Sacramento a few months after Vlade Divac was hired in an advisory role. Following Pete's departure, Divac was promoted to the GM position, but once again, things didn't exactly work out for the best. During Divac's tenure, the team made multiple questionable moves, such as sending a draft pick to Philadelphia that was ultimately used to select Jason Tatum, drafting Willie Cauley-Stein when they still had Cousins on the roster, drafting Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic, and overpaying multiple free agents. However, while most of Divac's moves were not exactly brilliant, he also made a few smart decisions, such as drafting De'Aaron Fox and trading for Bogdan Bogdanovic. while also acquiring Buddy Hield once the team decided to move on from Cousins. In the end, droughts decided to step down in August of the current year, and while his time with the team included some terrible moves and clever ones, he did bring a few special talents to Sacramento who could be key in ending the team's playoff drought. Still, even with a few great pieces in place, it's unlikely the Kings can avoid making history for the wrong reasons. Aside from being the longest playoff drought in team history, the Kings streak is just one season away from tying the Clippers' record for the longest playoff drought in league history. On top of that, its finals appearance and championship drought, the streak stands at 16 consecutive seasons without a playoff series win. So, considering all things, should fans in Sacramento be hopeful they'll see their team back in the playoffs sooner rather than later? As we mentioned at the start of the video, every streak eventually comes to an end, and while no one should rely on the Kings making the playoffs next season, the truth is that if they're able to develop their young players and surround them with solid role players, they could be in the race for a playoff spot in a few seasons. Fox is looking like the kind of player you could build a franchise around. He's made great improvements after each season and has shown the ability to lead on offense, both as a creator and as a scoring threat. If he can improve on his three-point shot, he could become one of the elite point guards of the league in a few years. They have a player that could form a powerful duo with Fox in Bagley, and of course Bagley is not Luka Doncic, and might never be as talented as the Slovenian already is. Still, if he's able to remain healthy and develops a strong inside game, he could make an excellent fit with this roster. Then the Kings have a complicated situation with Hield and Bogdanovic. Hield is by far the best defensive player among the two. However, his defense and the way he handles himself around the media leave a lot to be desired. On the other hand, Bogdanovic seems to be the kind of role player that can be plugged into any team and provide consistent effort and production, making him a valuable asset in today's game. Ultimately, the ideal would be for the Sacramento Kings to keep both players and try to find a role in which both can make use of their talents to win games. However, things might not be as easy, especially considering there might soon be many teams making offers for both players. Still, it doesn't look like this team needs too many changes to contend for a playoff spot. Just 2 seasons ago, the Kings finished with their best record since 2006, with a roster that remains mostly the same. That would seem to indicate that what they're missing is chemistry and consistency as a unit, as well as a few veteran players that can help guide the team off the court. So with that in mind, the responsibility of creating a winning culture will fall mostly on coach Luke Walton and new general manager Monte McNair. Walton earned a reputation as a great coach following his time as an assistant in Golden State, and while he's yet to produce a winning season as a head coach, if he's given the chance to develop some consistency with this team, it could be a matter of time before the wins start coming. On the other hand, McNair brings deep experience as part of a successful front office in Houston over the last 13 years. He started his tenure there as part of the analytics department before rising in the ranks. His experience with the Rocket system, along with Walton's experience with the Warriors system, could make for an interesting combination considering the Kings are already one of the fastest teams in the league. And the recent additions they made to the front office and the coaching staff indicates they could be the ones to finally bring some stability to Sacramento. If they do, the rest should fall into place sooner rather than later. All in all, the Kings are close to reaching levels of mediocrity that only the old Clippers knew. It's not something to be proud of, and it has been the result of years of questionable basketball and management decisions. Still, looks like they're as close as they've been in the last 14 years to start winning some games. If they're able to find the right balance among their young players and surround them with the right pieces, things should start to look good in Sacramento once again. But now, do you think McNair and Walton will be able to figure things out in the next couple of seasons? Is the Kings roster good enough to go against the rest of the West? Let us know what you think in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.